Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss a hilariously spectacular Brexit irony that I was hitherto unaware of. So right now, the Tories and Tory client journalists and commentators who all coincidentally send their kids to private schools are all spitting feathers about Labour's plans to charge VAT on Tarquin's school fees. Well, it turns out that Labour are only able to do this thanks to the extreme Tory Brexit. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So I don't want to alarm you, but I think this may be a popcorn alert. Let's go over how I discovered this. So my attention's drawn to an article in The Economist in which the claim is made that the Tories have essentially screwed themselves over. Now, it makes the point I have many times that the Tories have been centralising more and more power into Downing Street, seemingly without any thought for what a Labour government might do with it after the election. But one particular example of this caught me by surprise. They said that Rachel Reeves would not be able to apply VAT to private school fees had we remained in the EU. Specifically, I think they mean in the single market. Now, this surprised me because my understanding of EU VAT rules is that they set minimum values only. So your floor is basically 0, 5% or 15%, depending on what you're applying them to. There are exemptions for member states who had lower levels before joining the EU, for example. But generally speaking, EU VAT rules set minimum levels and governments are free to raise them above those as they wish, as indeed the UK has at various times as EU members. And then someone who worked in this field very helpfully pointed out that there are some things which are exempt from VAT under EU law altogether, and educational fees are included. I checked it out. It's true. I had not realised this. This is hilarious. What it means is that every time a Tory complains about the impending application of VAT to school fees, you can ask them if they supported Brexit. If they say yes, you can say, well, you voted for this. In fact, not only did you vote for it, you must have known you voted for it because did you know what you were voting for? Oh, you knew what you were voting for, so you were voting for this. Not that this really classes as a Brexit benefit as such, because if we'd remained in the EU, our overall tax revenues would be much higher than Labour will pull in with private school fees taxation, for example. But I do think it's very funny that Tory Brexiteers, because those are the ones who are complaining the most loudly, Tory Brexiteers are the architects of their own anguish here. And this, as I say, is just one example of how the Tories are screwing themselves over. They've spent their post-Brexit years completely neglecting the country, therefore making it more likely they were going to lose power sooner, but hoarding power for themselves into Downing Street. And I have asked on more than one occasion, do the Tories never really think that maybe what they're doing is giving more power to Labour to do as they please with fewer checks and balances? Especially over the last couple of years. You could sort of understand it. You know, if you read the 2019 Conservative manifesto, they promised to do all this. It was a manifesto for centralising power right into 10 Downing Street. Yeah, do what they like. It was a huge power grab of a manifesto. And at the time, when they won, they sort of thought they were going to be in power for like 10 years at least, yeah. But over the last couple of years, it's been quite clear that a Labour government has become all but certain. And yet they've still been doing it. And I could only think that maybe the Tories realised that they're the baddies and that Labour wouldn't actually abuse the powers that they were intending to abuse. But the thing is, some of them are not abusers. Or should we say more accurately, they won't be seen as abusers by Labour. Applying VAT to private school fees is popular, and Labour see no reason why wealthy people should have tax breaks when struggling workers are, well, struggling. The same with planning reforms. Labour have been talking again this week about smashing NIMBYism, which they see as being obstructive to building up the infrastructure needed for both our society and our economy to grow. Labour aren't planning on using these powers to hand out public contracts to their mates with minimal public scrutiny and even less chance of being blocked. They're not doing it for like objectively corrupt purposes. But they are planning on doing things which are not going to meet with universal approval. They are certainly planning on doing things that the Tories will be fiercely opposed to. And yet what the Tories have done is to have removed many of the obstacles for Labour. Like at the moment, we think of the Tories as participating in a scorched earth policy right now. They're screwing the country over, they're screwing the economy over deliberately to give Labour a massive job to even tread water. The idea being that Labour won't be able to do very much come the following election. They'll just say, well, Labour didn't actually improve things, so you might as well vote for us again. But in terms of executive powers, Starmer and Reeves will actually have a lot more freedom than previous Labour administrations. And it's all thanks to the Tories removing checks and balances that they intended to benefit themselves, which will work just as well for their opponents. And it is particularly stupid over the last few years when a Labour government has looked likely that they continue to do so. And so every time Labour do something the Tories don't like in the coming years, you can point out, well, it's the Tories who made it easier. They created the environment which made it way easier to do these things. Mind you, of course, the best balance to have in politics is a representative electoral system which breaks the current hegemony. You know, give every voter power. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.